Energized Show, up the Irish.
Okay, what's going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of Energized, brought to you by Or Kings Competitions. Ross,
are you intoxicated or something?
Introduce the guest, man.
Today we are bringing you Irish MMA legend. He is the head coach of Team KF Martial Arts. It's the one and only Chris Fields, baby, the housewife's choice. Yes. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, it's kind of, I think I'm into the Gilf's choice now at this stage. I'm wearing the cardigan and everything, lads. I'm game on.
I love it, Chris. I love it.
Chris.
I
love that nickname. Here, before we get into everything,
yeah,
can you tell us how you got that nickname again, please?
The housewife's choice.
Yes. Or the Gilf one.
Yes.
The Gilf's choice.
The Gilf's choice now. It was actually Andrew McGann gave it to me, and I think there was something to do with Pete Carroll's mother-in-law or something like that. Yeah, there was a yeah. we won't mention that. Yeah.
The checkered shirt legend. What a man.
Yeah. L checks, yeah. Geez, is he still popping them check shirts these days? He can't be still wearing a check shirt, is he?
Oh no, he's never out of the gi these days, that fella.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, he's doing really well actually. Seems to be doing great.
Yeah. I think he's doing his own podcast now as well. So shout
he
out.
Is. I think about jiu-jitsu, right? It's mostly just about jiu-jitsu these days. It's good to see him back though. I think he went through a little rough patch there for a while. It's good to see him back, you know.
Yeah, he's definitely someone you want to have in around the scene, regardless what he's doing. He's a top man. He's a top man. Yeah. But Chris, all eyes were on Cage Warriors last weekend. One of your good friends, your little brother, as you call him, James Webb, enters the very elite status of champ at Cage Warriors. And I always think a middleweight to light heavyweight jump is bigger because people don't realize it's 20 pounds as opposed to, a featherweight and lightweight is 10 pounds. Like, it's a big jump, and he went up there and he went and got the win. Tell us, what did you think of the performance, and how happy were you for your mate James?
Yeah, I'll start with the happy part. Obviously, absolutely delighted. I love James. James is my first ever fighter. He trained with me before I had a gym, so I was coaching him before I had a gym. And then when we put the first gym in Swords on the main street, I actually made a room out the back for him to come stay in because he was going to come train with us. And then he's been with us ever since. So since before I had a gym, he's been my student. And he worked, like, I don't think people understand what James does to be able to fight. He was trekking over and back to here. So he'd stay for like 4 to 5 days at a time. At first he was just staying non-stop, months on end. And then obviously fiance and kids, so then it's like a few days and home. And now we had a chat before this fight kind of came together, and he said to me that there was an opportunity to go down and train with Tom Aspinall and all those boys and stay at home, but he'd still have to trek down to Manchester and stay in hotels. And I was like, I think that's the best move he could do, man. And so we kind of set up a thing where I'd coach him from here, so we'd like he'd have the long drive home from Manchester, so I'd chat to him for an hour or so on the way home, going over what went right, what went wrong. If there was some new stuff I think he needed to add it, I'd video one of the lads, send it over to him so he could drill it with his own guys in his own club. And yeah, I thought he was you were saying about the performance now as well. I thought he was phenomenal. I thought he looked great. I thought he looked good everywhere. Very good takedown defense, very good striking. Couple of hairy moments here and there on the feet, but nothing too crazy, especially for the big step up,
Yeah, well, I think that step up with like those moments on the feet, they're always going to be that slightly, maybe a bit more nerves to it. You're fighting a bigger guy who hits harder, and like when it gets up to light heavyweight, it's like I always feel like it's the same as heavyweight. It's like one touch and the fight can totally change. But one thing I must say that I've been like overly impressed with James is like when he gets on top, like that top pressure that he has is absolutely frightening. He looks like the people underneath look like they're drowning under him.
Yeah, he's a very, very high-level jiu-jitsu player on his own terms. And I think we actually chatted, because I rewatched the fight last night. It's how sad my life is. I rewatched the fight with my wife and my son last night. They had to sit through it again because they watched it live, obviously. And I thought the big change now, and I spoke to James this morning about this, the biggest change I've seen was that he started actually implementing his ground and pound a lot more in this fight. So he used to grapple. And actually, it was Daniel Strauss alluded to it he was fighting on the ground and Clampy was grappling. So James was landing shots the whole time. His ground and pound was way better, and he has those awesome heavy hips from his solid grappling base. But it was weird. We were watching it last night, sitting on the couch here, and I was here, so I was to my left, my son in the middle, and my wife on the right. And they watched it. I was there live, and when I put it on, I started biting my nails, and my 9-year-old turns to me and goes, "Is it weird that I'm nervous even though I know the result?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I get you. I don't know why it happens, but I'm still like, oh shit, what's it going to look like? How's he going to, this kind of stuff. It's weird."
Yeah. Could you hear yourself shouting instructions through the TV?
Probably not, because I was probably shouting them in the sitting room as well.
Every time there's a Cage Warriors broadcast and someone from your team is fighting, like the commentators always mention you shouting.
I really like in this fight. You can probably notice, but James, obviously you get that relationship with a guy, but he listened to everything perfectly throughout the fight, and it kind of at certain times, even at the end, he probably got that position. He got the back. I don't know if you saw that. I posted something there last night about Tom adding just a little piece to something I said. So we kind of have rules in the corner that it's one voice generally, unless it's something that has to be said immediately. And so I said to James, that back is there for you, that back is there for you, you need to go for it again. He'd fallen off the back already, so he went up to get it, and then Tom just added just a little bit to the end. He just said hooks first. Because a lot of guys go up and then throw the hooks in, which is what James had done earlier and fall off. This time he kind of stood over, put the hooks in, and then took the back so he could flatten them out. And that led to the finish. And then you can hear at the end, I'm just saying, just keep throwing, because I take it was an exhausting fight. James would have been happy to ride the round out in that position, land a couple of shots. But I kind of felt if he could get a few shots off, it would be stopped. And that's what happened. Could
you see any improvements in James's game from training with it'd be like Aspinall's team? I think PT called them Team BFG.
Big friend.
Yeah, that's it. That's a great name. Yeah, definitely. Do you know what I found? The biggest thing, like obviously there's the improvements, the little skill improvements, but the biggest thing was how confident he was now. So something that had happened to Webby maybe a couple of times is that confidence of being shook. This time he just looked bulletproof out the back during the fight. Even little conversations we'd have in the corner between rounds, he just looked bulletproof. He wasn't losing. That was it. He said it to me before, and he said, the lads I'm training with, like those guys that I'm training with, there's no way any of these guys would be, He's in there with like Tom, Modestus, Phil DeFries. These guys, they're absolute savages.
Savages. Yeah. What, UFC interim heavyweight champion, KSW heavyweight champion, Mick Parkins knocking people out left, right, and center.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like these
and they're bigger than James too. Yeah, they're bigger guys. So it's been fantastic for him, and they've been great with him. Big shout out to those lads. They've been fantastic, especially Modestus. Modestus was great to have there on the night. Such a good buzz being around the back room with him and all. He's just such a kind of good character to have around for James. They bounce off each other really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I wouldn't be surprised to see more gyms like that in the future, maybe for like the bigger guys, if that makes sense. Because I find like that's probably a thing that like bigger guys struggle to find bigger guys, and they've created a haven for the big men.
Yeah, it's actually a great way to do things, I think. And, it's a loose kind of affiliation. So they're happy for me to still be coaching James. It's not like you're on a different team. You just come down, you spar. There's a little bit of technique. You do your S&C together. You do rounds again the next day. And then you go back home to your own team, And so they have this deadly little thing going. I would have been a big guy. So it would have been very difficult to find sparring partners, very, very difficult to find guys. And then what you do is you end up doing rounds with like welterweights when you're light heavyweight, and maybe like kind of middleweights if you can get your hands on them. They just move different than light heavyweights. They're faster. They do things different, and then you kind of your game's a little bit thrown off, and you get in there with someone that just has power punch. And that's all they have,
Yeah, Chris, just bring it to yourself. Like, who would have been like your number one sparring partner, like when you were coming up?
When I was coming up, it was Carl. It would have been most of my sparring would have been with Carl and Phil Peter and these kind of lads. Towards the end, then James. So me and James would have bounced off each other a lot for fights. from my last few fights, and Cole would have still been involved in my camps and stuff. I would have had Will Fleury and stuff would have come over a little bit. Would have had I had a really kind of cool setup at one point when I was fighting in the gym, a Wednesday morning kind of positional or rolling, and it would be like me, Cole, Phil, Will Fleury be there, James, another guy from the gym called Matt Black, big guy. There would have been Kieran Davern, Tom would have come down, so it would have been a really good setup. Just to help me get ready, and that's kind of formed into then when I finished, that became James's training, so the same days were kept.
Okay.
And then obviously, look, Webby's after becoming 2-weight world champion. Not many people get to do that in Cage Warriors. Obviously, massive moment for him, massive moment for the gym. But as fight fans, all we ever do is ask, what's next? So what do you think is next for Webby? Do you think that the UFC, especially now that they're announced to come to London in March, do you think that's something he could look at?
Yeah, I think that's definitely what should be next. I'd love to see James get that opportunity. I always thought that James, from the time we started training together, he was going to be the first guy I got there. There was some weird stuff in the middle, but he might still be the first guy I get there. He, I think he deserves his opportunity. I think that, obviously the light heavyweight division is thinner than the other division, so he's a better opportunity of getting it off that. A finish as well for the belt. So that's what we're going to push now, hopefully, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we're going to try and do. So I think it's very plausible, though. I don't see why he wouldn't deserve an opportunity. He's coming. He's just won that belt. He's a two-time champion. He's finished, I think, 3 of his last 4 opponents. He's what the UFC are looking for.
Yeah,
hometown guy.
Absolutely, and I also think that the light heavyweight division also has a lot more Europeans, so I think it's easier to get him versus another European guy on the card. I don't know who off the top of my head I'd say he'll fight. I know a lot of the upper echelon to the division is European, but I think for the UK shows, if you can get an opponent who's also in Europe, I think that makes it easier logistically for the UFC to make the fight happen.
Yeah, and I think James is probably in the right place now to do it. At other times he was probably close, but he wouldn't have been in the right place, and it mightn't have been the right time. I think he's still at a good age for those heavier divisions as well. You're probably talking, if he wanted, he could go on for another 6 or 7 years. So,
yeah, well, especially if you look at the champion's 37, so he's 3 years younger than the champion. So he does have that bit of a runway still ahead of him. Was he 16 fights deep? So it's not like he's had 40 fights and he's champion. So
and he's not a load of bad TKOs or any real damage in fights. He's not being dropped and absolutely pummeled for 4 minutes with his head opened up and stuff. He's in a good place, I think.
He's a big handsome man with tattoos as well, which
he's like a shy looking Thor. That's what he's like.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Chris, you've also got loads of people from your gym signed with Cage Warriors, and Graham Bowen announced they're planning on coming to Ireland twice next year. What sort of way? Okay, well, I'll start here first. What way do you see? How do you see how your gym got on this year? And what do you want to see from the team on Cage Warriors next year?
Yeah, so probably not our best year. I think we're probably even for the year on Cage Warriors. They're thereabouts. Considering our results for the year are really good. I think we're an 85% win rate at pro. I think we were even or maybe 1 up, in Cage Warriors. I think the reason for that is that we're in or around pushing for belts in a lot of divisions. So you're coming up against those, you have Ryan with Nick Bagley, say, that's a tough fight. Nick Bagley's probably going to be a champion there soon enough, and probably going to be in the UFC. But you got to take those fights to try and push yourself on. That's always been my mentality. I don't really go with the idea of get lads to 12-0 fighting absolute hams, and then they go in and they come up against them. They've never felt it before, so you want guys overcoming adversity, feeling that pressure a little bit, and learn how to deal with it, learn how to win those fights and dig deep and all that kind of stuff. you know, obviously I want a clean sweep all the time. That's why I keep the numbers. You know, I'm always tracking how the gym is doing. I'm always tracking where we're winning, where we're losing. You know, I do it for K1, I do it for jiu-jitsu, I do it for every aspect of the gym. So we know, like, right, is there an area where we're having problems? What are the reasons? You know, it could be as simple as, look, we're just fighting really high level opposition. And, you know, in a fight with really high level opposition, you're in a coin toss, aren't you? It's a 50-50 thing in MMA. But if it's not that, maybe there's something to do with the training or the way the lads are preparing, or, you know, so we can figure all that out. I'm trying to approach it like, and it doesn't seem to be the norm in our sport, but I'm trying to approach it like a professional sport, like the way a football team approaches things, like the way, you know, I'm not trying to just go, right, we go smash hammers off a tire and go batter lads in cages. You know, I'm trying to have a very scientific approach to how it's done, you know, and I'm keeping results and keeping tabs on how the losses have occurred is big as well. So, you know, if all your losses are coming by the same fashion, well, then there's obviously a problem, you know, there's obviously an issue there to be fixed. So I'm hoping next year we have a couple of guys pushing towards the title, and there was a couple of like very close fights this year that maybe didn't go our way, you know, where you're going right there on top of the fight and then get caught in a sub, or something like Adam Shelley against Llewyn Davis, starting to control the fight, pick him apart in the feet, ends up like a little stutter step on a back jump. Had he been able to stay standing, he stays a lot like okay. He goes over and he loses the fight, you know. That's coin toss stuff, and Llewyn's very good as well.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's someone who's pushing towards the title, and like I actually thought in 2023, obviously Adam had two really good wins. He had what we call the tornado kick, and like I felt like he really came on, and then he beat Matthew Camilleri. Is that how you say his name? From Next Gen.
Camilleri, I think, or something.
And like I felt like there were, you know, the narrative was maybe like he was going to get wrestled out of it in that fight, and then like he threw some unbelievable elbows up against the cage, and like really like decimated him over the 3 rounds. And then I think obviously 2024 didn't go quite to plan, but you could see the improvements there in him. And like you say, sometimes, you know, it is fighting. One thing can definitely change the narrative of the fight, and I think he was the victim of that in 2024. But both Shelley brothers are someone I'm always looking forward to see. I feel like they have such a unique style.
Yeah, I think a big thing as well is, and a lot of people kind of, I don't know if you like, I don't really believe in, you know, I don't always believe in to have an opinion in something. You have to do it, but on this one, I feel like maybe you do have to do. I think all fighters, myself included, every guy I've ever been around, it happens at different stages for them. And some guys never get to that stage because they give up or whatever, you know. But I think some guys, 6 fights in, they're ready made. They're fucking off they go. And, you know, like some guys, you could get them to 6-0 or 7-1, or, you know, something like this, and then go off to the UFC and they'll do great. And then other guys takes them 15, 16 fights to figure themselves out, what way they like to cut, what way they like out the back, what way they like to warm up, what way they want to walk to the cage, what mindset they want to be in, how they want to start to fight, what positions they want to play, you know. And that changes constantly for lads, but like it's very difficult to figure that out 6 fights in. You know, some guys are special and they have that, but most guys don't.
Yeah, one person who does look special and has been absolutely railroading his opponents is Dom Norcus. That man has looked unstoppable since turning pro. Obviously, he's young in the game, but is he someone who you'd like to see fight on the Cage Warriors scene this year or in 2025?
Yeah, so maybe like a fight in one of the fights in Dublin when they come, that'd be great. I think. I think my thing with Dom, Omar, and Craig at the minute is I'm actually just keeping them loose where they can take fights wherever. So I haven't really signed any of them over to long-term contracts with anyone yet. You know, I'm kind of holding them off that at the minute. So somehow, I don't know how, but somehow I've ended up like a manager and a coach. Now, I couldn't manage shit. I don't know how this happened, but here we are, right? So I have to kind of guide the lads a little bit. But I think the best thing for them now is just being able to, at this point, like at this early stage, being able to fight whenever. So, you know, they can have 6 fights a year. Like Omar Tugarev is going to fight this weekend, and this will be his 5th fight in 12 months. And he'll be going 5-0.
On Caged?
Cage, I think. Cage.
Just Cage.
I'm pretty
Just
Cage.
sure it's
Cage.
called. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it's Friday in
It's
Finland.
a promotion run by Nicholas.
Yeah. Yeah. So he is, he's such a unique talent. He's excellent. He's killing it. But he's also, he's able to just take, like, he fought, and then 2 weeks later he's fighting in UAE. You know what I mean? And then again, then another fight right after. And the Dom's been doing the same thing. Fight pops up. There's a pull out. Are you ready to go? Do you want to take that fight? Does that fight work for you? Let's do it. You just don't get those opportunities that much when you're signed to someone. I think that's a different stage of your career. But Dom, like, to your point, Dom is a scary talent. A scary, scary talent. And he probably is one of those guys that'll be 6-0 and gone, and will be capable of competing when he goes at 6-0. He's just has a nice brain for the sport. Trains like an animal.
Has PFL or Bellator been in touch as well with trying to sign any of your athletes?
Yeah, a few of the guys at this stage. Again, like, there's different guys like Leon. Leon's very close to the UFC. PFL and stuff have come with offers, so he's kind of weighing up what his next move is. A few people have come with offers. He's kind of weighing up his next move. It's very difficult for lads too, like in that kind of situation, like Leon's, where you have a really solid record, and you could be a couple of wins away from your dream job. But I find at the minute it's very difficult for anyone, myself, the fighters, managers, like even the managers that look at something like that, to know what you're meant to do to get in the UFC anymore. You used to be one of the best guys, and then you're there.
Yeah,
the options are
a more and more difficult path.
Yeah, the options are changing as well. Like, look at the likes of Paul Hughes going to PFL now. Like, more people are taking a look at it. Yeah,
I think that's because there's no straight path. Like, Paul should have been signed to UFC. Anyone could say that. And he should have been signed before the offers were made that weren't great, and then them offers wouldn't have seemed so bad. And they would have had him, and he would have been in. But like the Dana White's Contender Series now seems to be the way they're going. So lads have to do that to get in, and if they sign the guys without doing that, then they don't have the content for the show. So.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that used to make Cage Warriors, like, the walked path that was so, like, direct into the UFC that UFC would be able to use the content of Cage Warriors, like, in their promos. Now you have to do Dana White Contender Series, or Dana White look for a fight, that's not even that frequent anymore, probably because Dana's too busy.
Or the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, or the Ultimate Fighter.
Or the Ultimate Fighter, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, what I mean? It's not as straightforward as it used to be. I think, win the belt at Cage Warriors and get one defense, or just win the belt, and, like, that was enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
now it doesn't seem as straightforward, which is, like, unfortunate as well. I also think the lack of European shows also makes it harder for the European fighters to get signed.
Yeah, and what you have then is you have these kind of exciting talents like Leon, who are kind of stuck in this limbo. Like, what does he do next? Does he sign with someone else? And then, like, I don't think people understand contracts that well. If you sign with PFL, you can't just have your 3-4 fights and then go. That's not how contracts work. They have, like, matching clauses, so they can keep you forever if you're doing well.
Oh, big time. And also, like, there's always that thing with Bellator and PFL that, like, we've seen so many Irish talent only be able to fight in Dublin. And, like, they hold you off for the 2 shows a year, and that's all you really get, if you know what I mean. Now, I know, like, someone like Paul Hughes is looked at different. I think Kieran Clark's maybe fought once, if not twice, outside of Dublin, out of what, like, 10 fights. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the most ideal scenario for some fighters, especially some fighters. Part of the aura of fighting is going around the world and showing all over the world.
And, like, that's almost part of the sell. If you're not getting paid crazy money, is that you get to go to all these places that you probably wouldn't have visited, you wouldn't have been able to go to. The other side is, like, because that sounds like you're just online into PFL. I'm not. Like, at least they're giving the options. At least they're trying to sign guys. At least they're trying to give the lads like an opportunity to fight, and an opportunity to fight against good guys. But, like, it's just very hard to figure out the lay of the land at the minute, and I don't want them. because the lads are like coming to me, and that's nice that they put that faith in me. I don't want to make a bad call. You know, I don't want to go, oh, you should definitely do that. And then 2 years from now, I'm sitting there going, fuck, that's that kid's life, and I'm at the fucking it up. You know?
Yeah. No, I'm sure the lads are going to trust what you say and what Tom says as well. Chris, we're after keeping you here very long. I know you have stuff to do, but the thing is, I want to ask you one last question before we let you go. Over the weekend, Jon Jones won. He beat Stipe Miocic, and we put a poll out today saying, who do you want to see Jon Jones fight next? Do you want to see him fight Tom Aspinall or Alex Pereira?
I think
Tom
Jones,
might be listening here now.
Yeah. I think Jones murders Pereira. Like murders. I think the more intriguing matchup is Tom Aspinall. I think I probably have a slightly different take on this than a lot of people. I really want to see Tom and Jon. I think Tom probably agrees with this. I also understand Jon going, I don't want to fight guys like Tom. I like, not from a championship position, he should have to fight whoever's in front of him, and if he wants to, he could vacate the belt. But like, I think, in my opinion, and I think fighters just they're always just fed to some young line and then thought of as washed. You know, I think if someone like Jon Jones wants to have a couple more in his own terms, he should be allowed to do whatever the hell he wants.
Right now, it's 83% Tom Aspinall, 17%.
Yeah, would I guess?
See, I actually think like no one's really tried to sell the Pereira versus Jones fight. You're talking about someone who's trying to create history, going up, trying to claim a third belt, the first ever person to fight or to fight for or a belt in 3 different weight classes and potentially win it. And he's going against the greatest of all time. And if you look at the wingspan of Pereira's career, like look how short his MMA career has been and what he's achieved in it. And if he can go up there and scalp Jon Jones, like he's already scalped Israel Adesanya. You know what I mean? Like you're talking from the best fighters to ever put on those gloves. And if Alex Pereira can go up there and beat him, and he has the power to do it. Now, look, I'd favor Jon, and especially with his grappling skills. But I think like Jones Pereira is almost being poo-pooed as if like that's a terrible fight, even though like that would be like in any other given year that would be the biggest fight of the year.
I would be much more excited if they said they were going to do Jones Pereira at light heavyweight.
Yeah, that would definitely get my, well, in fairness, Jones Pereira at any weight would get my juices flowing, because like realistically they're both probably going to weigh around 230, 240.
Yeah,
one way or the other. So.
Jones is not like he's about the same weight as me right now. He's not like he. I've body dysmorphia. I was about to say he's not a massive human being, but he's not like a gigantic heavyweight. Like I've met Tom Aspinall a few times now. He is fucking huge, man.
Yeah,
guy's big. Just different, big thick neck, wrists. You know, he's just a big fucking man, thick chest. Jones is kind of my physique and a little bit chubby now. You know, he's tall, lean build, and then he's a little bit of weight around the midsection. Fantastic athlete, like you said, the greatest of all time. That pains me to say, Simon Anderson, man, but I think you're right. He's probably the greatest. Him and GSP are probably the 2 greatest to ever do it. I think he murders Pereira, though. I just don't see it being. I get the sell. The sell's brilliant, but it's like the sell until the first minute, and we're all going, "Oof, why do we let this happen?" You know what I mean?
Maybe the UFC are like, "Oh, we don't want to like have our light heavyweight champion like decimated," type of thing.
Yeah,
I mean, like because like, Pereira's a big star at the moment, arguably the biggest star outside of someone like Jon Jones we have.
He's probably, I don't know. Would he be smaller than Jones? Do you think as a star? I think he's huge.
Well, I just think because Jon Jones fights in it so infrequently, like there's that aura of him, as opposed to like Alex Pereira is like he's like Ghostbusters, like save the day. Who are you gonna call? Alex Pereira.
Yeah. I like the Aspinall fight more because it actually asks questions of Jones.
Yeah,
a lot of questions,
and it's pissing off Jon Jones as well, which is
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder is this Jon Jones secretly building the fight?
Could be genius. It could be genius. Yeah, it could be genius. And he's going to get paid crazy money. He should get paid crazy money. He doesn't seem like a very nice person, some of the stuff he's done in his life, but like a fighter, he deserves everything. You know what I mean? Like everything. He's the best to ever do it. And guys like that should be walking out of the sport with like he said, fuck you money, you know?
Yeah, and hopefully Irish fighters get what they deserve in the coming years as well. Chris, Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you want to say to the people tuning in now to see this Energized Show, aka the Chris Fields podcast?
Well, I'll do a little thing for you lads. Jiu-jitsu by day, Energized Show by night.
All day. Chris,
I love it, Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
We're going to see new Mectors bars. Women over the age of 40 are going to be checking this show out.
Yeah.
Oh God, over 40 is gilfs. That's where we're at.
Well,
Wow.
I just wanted to lower the age bracket for you as well. Just that,
all right,
you're more open to that audience there as well.
I think being 40 and a granny depends on the area you grew up in, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, that could be
area dependent. It's area dependent.
40's the new 30 these days. But Chris, we want to thank you very much for your time, and we'll let you get on with the rest of your day, bud.
Thanks, boys. Have a good one, yeah?
Energized Show, up the Irish.
So, Ross, that was your favourite Gilf's voice choice.
Yeah, Chris Fields, what a man. What a win for James Webb. And I suppose we'll just pick off where we left that conversation. Jon Jones, what's next, Baz? What do you want to see next for Jon Jones?
I think just because he's getting really, really annoyed about Tom Aspinall's name coming up so much, that's just what I want to see. You know what I mean? If he was getting more annoyed about Alex Pereira, I'd be like, I want to see that.
Yeah, well, look, either way, I'm going to leave a happy man. As long as he doesn't fight like someone totally out of the blue, other than those two, I'm here for. But I also do agree with Chris in a way that he probably has earned the right to pick who he wants to fight. So let's just see how it played out. Well, you know what? I really want. I just want to see Jon Jones back, maybe in the first half of 2025. I want to see him more active. That's what we all really want.
I think it's better for him as well if he stays active.
I'd love to see. Imagine he fought 3 times in 2025 and then hung up the gloves. That'd be epic.
Give us 3 fights.
Well, I think the first 2 are obvious: Aspinall and Pereira, and then I don't know who I feel like the third one will be someone who makes their own name in that meantime. If that makes sense.
Ngannou?
Well, Ngannou would be the dream, but whether they can get that over the line, I don't know.
Who knows, man? Crazy.
They're the 3 fights that people want to see Jon Jones in.
What about Jon Jones boxes against Mike Tyson?
No, I want to see that. But before we do go into Mike Tyson boxing, obviously Charles Oliveira won at the weekend. Do you think he'll get a title shot off the back of that?
Yeah, I think he'll be the reserve. The backup, yeah. I think he'll be the backup for Sarukian and Islam Makhachev. And who doesn't love Oliveira?
Yeah, big time. And one other person I want to ask you about, Bo Nickel. Do you think he was humanized a bit now after that Paul Craig fight? Obviously, it went the distance. He couldn't get the finish in that fight.
Yeah, I think Paul Craig is underestimated. He's fought a load of legends.
He's a win over Ankalaev.
Yeah, he's and Shogun.
Yeah, so there's no messing there.
Yeah, and he's looking better than ever. I like him in this new division. I think it was sort of remember Chimaev got a step up, and then when he fought Gilbert Burns, he was more humanized. Sometimes you see these people and you're like, nobody can beat that guy, and then it's just look, it takes time to build your craft, especially when you're just coming from a wrestling background. So look, Bo Nickel's still very green. But we will see where he goes next. But we also have to give a shout out to the Welsh gangster, Ross.
Yeah, Oban Elliott getting the finish. Bit of a hammer fist at the finishing off. I don't even know if you call it ground and pound because Oban was basically standing when he was delivering them, but they were absolutely vicious.
Did he not knock him out and then wake him back up and knock him out again?
I think he was playing basketball with the canvas. He was in an MSG. He thought he was trying to audition for the New York Knicks.
That is ruthless, man.
But what a guy! Look, he's got the promo skills. He's got everything. I think he's becoming a massive fan favorite. I think we always knew he would become that fan favorite once he made it to the big dance. And he is someone who, if WWE don't sign him up for after his MMA career, I'd love to see him. I'm actually not 100% sure what age Oban is, but I'd love to see him do
26.
Okay, I'd love to see him 31, 32, retire from the UFC and go into WWE.
The thing is, for people tuning in now, if you don't actually watch Cage Wars, there's a lot of guys, they're all different in their own way, but people like Oban, there's other people like that in Cage Warriors, and like when you watch them like
Yeah,
coming
there's some
through,
huge characters.
yeah, like I mean, even the Hardwick brothers, I mean, like they're the ones that are pushing next to the two champions. Like do you know what? Someone like James Sheen is actually great crack as well. Like he's very quiet on social media, but like when you have him on, he's very funny. Like he's very dry. There's a lot of fighters, but like they're just some champions.
Yeah,
that,
like Adam Cullen going around calling himself the king of France. You know, Tobias Harrella, like that walkout will be iconic in the UFC if he was allowed to wear the mask. You know, there's loads of guys there to check out. So keep your eye on the Cage Warriors scene.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about Cage Warriors, Baz, Paddy McCurry with the massive finish of Cage Warriors, big overhand right, sent his opponent doing the chicken dance, and the ref stepped in. First round victory for him. Huge win for Paddy McCurry. Do you think he's looking at a title shot in 2025?
Yeah, but maybe is it a bit too early in the first half? I think maybe the second half.
See, the thing is, I think him versus Dario Belandi, is that how you say it? Apologies if I got that wrong, but like I'd favor Paddy in that matchup, but it's more whether he wins the Cage Warriors belt. He's already been on Tough. He's already won a fight on Tough. You know what I mean? Like if the UFC came and got him now, is he maybe a bit too early for the UFC? I wouldn't mind seeing him do one more fight and then going for the belt in Cage Warriors. But if they offer him the belt next, I'm all for it. Yeah. Paddy McCurry, he rolled them up and smoked them.
Yeah, that celebration's going pretty viral these days.
Yeah.
Ross, Cage Warriors London, that's always a mad buzz in there. But this weekend, Cage Warriors 181 goes down in Newcastle.
Yeah, some huge matchups on the card, especially Kendi Freeman. We haven't seen a women's champion in a very, very long time. So she's definitely one to look out for. I very much feel like it's all geared for her to go get the belt. Obviously, her dad, I think, was her dad the first ever person to fight in?
Ian Freeman?
Ian Freeman, was he the first ever UK fighter to fight in the UFC? Potentially so. Now, could totally have that wrong, but definitely up there. Obviously, as you alluded to, one of the Hardwick bros, Harry Hardwick's on the card, defending his featherweight belt. He's obviously a massive fan favorite. There will be Parmo's had come the weekend. And then
Hack is back.
Yes. And the flyweight title is back. I'm looking forward to this card quite a lot, actually, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we're probably missing is
Irish.
probably a bit more Irish talent on this card. But sure, look, we can't have it all. Yeah, but James Power is fighting as well, who's obviously one to watch. And then another person who you said, Baz, great for personality. We have Leon Arms, and then a low-key return of Justin Burlinson as well.
That's what I was going to jump on, Burlinson as well.
Yeah. You up Sunderland till I die.
Yeah. That's going down on Saturday. The UFC is actually going to China. Piotr Jan's taking on Devson Figueiredo, Ross.
In a number one contender match. Definitely.
Who'd you like this one? By the way, after Jon Jones getting that win on the weekend, we are actually we're drawing 21 correct answers each this year.
Jeez, in November, we're coming into squeaky bum time here, Basmo.
Yeah, well, I think you were like 12 ahead at one stage.
I'm not going to lie. I sort of like Devson Figueiredo at this stage. I feel like his trajectory is on the up. Piotr Jan is a bit stagnant at the moment, but it's an absolute scintillating matchup.
Yeah, I don't know if you're trying to double bluff me here. I was trying to bluff you with Miocic. I was like, are you watching Jon Jones against Stipe Miocic? But no, Cage Warriors is always a great show, and it's always good to watch that before the UFC, so you can so you're
get
ready.
On it.
Yeah, you're getting ready to get on it. Ross, we just have to touch on before we get into the Irish domestic fights this weekend. Over the weekend, Katie Taylor defeated Amanda Serrano. Supposedly 60 million people tuned in to watch that on Netflix.
Yeah, no, I didn't watch it live. I watched it after the fact. People were saying that the stream was lagging and stuff like that. Netflix couldn't handle the amount of people watching it. So, look, Katie got sort of a bit of grief for leading with her head and stuff like that. And I just think it's her fighting style against Serrano's fighting style, orthodox versus southpaw, just led to those two styles. I don't think like people were calling Katie a dirty fighter afterwards. I felt like there was a few underhanded tricks from MVP promotions. They were like trying to not let Eddie Hearn up on the stage and the build up to the fight and stuff like that, even though you're allowed 3 people on stage with you. So I just thought that was really sort of like underhanded tactics that like didn't need to be played. This was a monumental occasion for women's boxing being on such a large platform. And look, another notch on the belt for Katie Taylor. I think I would like to see her do one more fight in Dublin and hang up the gloves. That's what I want for Katie Taylor.
Do you think that's what she wants to do?
I think she's realizing that the fights are getting harder and she's having to, dig down deep and really, show her heart to win these fights. You know what I mean? I feel like her speed and skill is slightly on deterioration, and I don't think that she can continue on this path. And also just absorbing that much damage after all she's achieved, I don't think she needs to do it. She can even hang up the gloves now, like, you know what I mean? Hopefully she's financially secure.
Oh, sure, I'm sure she is, but but the thing is, not only is she winning, like she's like inspiring the next generation of women and men. So she's like leaving like an even more important legacy, especially after that fight over the weekend. Speaking of over the weekend, Jake Paul defeated Mike Tyson. In the build up to this, Ross, I was like, I cannot foresee Tyson being knocked out. But I didn't. But like not once in my head did I even think about that. How would Jake Paul win by decision? When I was watching the fight, like I watched them both back, so I knew about results. Excuse me, because I was up early on Saturday. But when I was watching the fight start, after like a couple of rounds, I was like, this is actually very difficult to actually even like watch, or it's not really entertaining me because like Mike just didn't look right, and he could like his balance was off, and it just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, he looked like a man who needed 2 knee replacements type of thing.
Yeah.
Like his movement was terrible. Like it was weird seeing like Jake Paul sort of bow to him at the end to show him the respect and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, like the fight probably shouldn't have taken place in the first place. It was just Jake Paul trying to get as many names as he can on his record. Like, who's next? Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Like
he's fight Shaq.
He's just trying to fight all the GOATs. Look, Jake Paul, I don't really know what to do with him, because like I don't really want to see him fight someone who's like an elite boxer, and I don't really want to see him fight someone who's washed either. Like I think his best option is to fight KSI next. I think that's one that can build enough traction. People will be like, right, who do you think is going to win? And like 2 massive fan bases, and like Logan Paul in the middle with the Bryan deal. Like I think that's actually the best option to do for Jake Paul next, but I just don't see that happening. Like he keeps on calling out people where the fights are never going to happen, like calling out Conor McGregor all the time. Like these fights are never going to happen. So like, well, it's like me calling out Ngannou. It's like
you're in the same division, like
but like me and Ngannou are never going to end up like across the ring from each other. I was going to say never in the same room, but like there's probably a large possibility we will end up in the same room at some stage.
You were beside him before that.
Yeah, no, it was total eclipse.
It was pure eclipse, man.
Yeah.
Jake Paul after actually slated Dana White on how like he set up a boxing company or organization, and it didn't go well, and he says Callum Walsh is basically a dud. I couldn't even sell 4,000 tickets in the Tree Arena, and then Callum Walsh called him out saying that he'd like to fight him. Do you think that, like, if you see, the thing is that if Jake really wants to piss off,
I think, if he wants to get Dana, like that's probably a fight he has to do. But I can only imagine Jake Paul is much larger than Callum Walsh.
Well, that's the thing. But didn't Jake Paul fight some absolute randomer a couple of fights ago, and people were like, didn't even know Jake Paul was fighting?
Yeah, true. Look, I wouldn't be against it, but
although where do you go? Like when you go as high as Netflix, like you almost want to push it even further as well. Like, you know.
Yeah, and also I wonder how many more Jake Paul's actually going to do.
Oh, he loves the attention, man. And like this is what basically all he does. Like he'd have to put people like back on the scratcher if he doesn't keep going. Well, like maybe not so much the scratcher. Like I'm sure there's going to be a lot of cash underneath that those bed underneath the duvet. Another thing I want to. Okay, right. So let's predict. Oh yeah, who do you want to see Jake Paul fight next?
I told you KSI would.
Okay, interesting. And who do you want to see Mike Tyson fight next?
No one.
Would you not fight him?
No.
Okay, Jake Paul supposed to got $40 million for that, and Mike Tyson got $20 million. So they're laughing all the way to the bank. Another before we get into this week, the latest Irish MMA domestic. It was actually announced Darren Till is going to be boxing Tommy Fury Ross. How excited are you for that? On Misfits.
Couldn't care less.
Who do you think wins?
Tommy Fury.
Oh, come on, man. You're a gorilla fan. Okay. This Saturday, the 23rd, Reece McKee's Fight Project returns. But also, Chaos Fighting Championship goes down. Ross, there's 2 pro fights on the card. It's going on in the Millennium Forum. Are you hiding? You're hiding?
No, I'm here.
You're hiding because you're afraid?
No. Just doing some tech stuff in the background. Yeah, Damien McKenna is fighting on the card, and so was Sean Kelly. The Millennium Forum. Two nice, tasty matchups. 2 pro debuts. We're seeing Sean Kelly fight against Jordan Heath, who recently fought against Brian Manning. He seems to be quite the character. And then McKenna is fighting against McAleese. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
McAleese recently fought. Oh, the name escapes me who he fought there recently.
Gary Rooney.
Gary Rooney. That's it. So that's.
What would you do without me, man?
Yeah. What would I do without you? That's an interesting one because obviously Damien McKenna, I think, is making his pro debut featherweight, and then Gary Rooney would have been flyweight now, or was that one a bantamweight? Not 100% sure, but look, I expect Damien McKenna to get his hand raised, and I expect Sean Kelly to get their hand raised. I feel like they're built for hometown wins, but obviously they're built to be good fights as well. So I think good matchmaking there by the lads, and shout out to those at Chaos because getting pro fights on this island is always beneficial for everyone. So big matchups going down in Derry at an absolute epic venue. Well said.
And then Ross, just as we wrap things up, Cage Gladiators was on over the weekend as well. Let us know what you thought of.
Danny Core put on this show. Big wins in the main event for Jack Core. He sort of slipped and landed a head kick at the same time, and followed up to get the finish. There was a TKO corner stoppage, but that was all she wrote. So great to see him continue on his pro career. Matthew Poor had a great finish as a heavyweight in the co-main event, and then we also saw Emma Core also get the TKO finish in the first round to pick up the first ever Cage Gladiators lightweight title. So fair play to Danny Core for setting up the show. Great to have another show on the island of Ireland, and well done to all those who took part.
Amen, baby. I want to read out
one last thing, Baz, I have to ask you.
Okay.
From my point of view.
Okay.
UFC have changed things up in the welterweight division. At UFC 310, we have a new co-main event. Ian Gary is no longer fighting Joaquin Buckley. UFC Tampa, he's now fighting Colby Covington. And we're getting undefeated versus undefeated. Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Gary in the co-main event for UFC 310. But it's the people's main event. This is the fight that people have been clamoring for. This is the fight that we called for, and this is a fight that it has title implications. The winner of this will fight Bilal Muhammad next for the belt. Does this fight excite you? And what do you think Ian's chances are of getting the job done?
The fight definitely does excite me. I think one of the biggest issues is that Shavkat doesn't speak English, so Ian's going to be selling the fight himself. It actually goes down in 2 weeks. Ian was originally meant to fight in 3 weeks' time. Look, these two lads, there's video recordings of them sparring. No, it's like you can't really take anything from sparring because they weren't really knocking the head off each other. But it actually seems like both of them have somewhat the same sort of style. They both like to stand.
Yeah.
Is this set for 3 rounds or 5 rounds?
It's 5 rounds.
5 rounds?
Yeah.
So this would be Ian's first ever 5-rounder?
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't think it's Shavkat. I don't think Shavkat has done 5 rounds though, has he?
I think Shavkat was to headline a fight night, but you know what Shavkat's like? He finishes every single fight, 100% finish rate. So I think he doesn't go the distance. So it doesn't bother Shavkat how many rounds it is. He likes to smash. He's never been the distance in the 3-rounder. So
the thing is,
oh, maybe you're right actually, because his last couple of fights have been on pay-per-view. So maybe you're right. Maybe he hasn't fought in the. Yeah, you're right. He's never been in a 5-rounder.
So neither of them have. The thing is, and this one is 5 rounds. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
New territory, deep waters.
The thing is, Ian doesn't mind winning. Like a
more tentative fight.
More tentative. Yeah, sorry, I was going to say non-pretty. Like he'll win a boring fight. Like that does not bother him. He's very like he knows exactly.
He has no problem winning the tactical battle.
And also, I don't think Ian would have taken this fight if he didn't know a thing or two. Like he was about to headline his first ever event, and now he's gone and he's fighting Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think I think that's just under Pantoja against the Japanese dude. So like, that pay-per-view isn't as big. So I feel like Ian knows a thing or two, and I'd have to go with Ian. Maybe by decision. By decision, yeah, I'm gonna go decision.
Fair. I think Ian can do it. I think he can get the job done by decision as well.
It's a win-win for Ian. Even if he loses, he wins because he went up and took this challenge.
Yeah, I could see Ian maybe losing the first round type thing, and then sort of come back with like maybe a 48-47 sort of, I could see rounds 2 and 3 being close. They could probably go either way. I see Ian, in the later rounds, 4 and 5. But actually, we did see Ian in a 5-round fight because he fought Jack Grant for the welterweight belt in Cage Warriors.
Well, I meant in the UFC, but
yeah, no, I know you did. But I'm more so saying he's done that. That experience might stand to him, and he looked great in round 4 and 5. He was yapping away to Jack Grant like there was no tomorrow. So let's see Ian Garry get his hand raised and fight Bilal Muhammad for the belt.
Who wouldn't love to see that? I want to end the show with a quote Ross I actually wrote last week. I didn't plan on putting it on the show, but I think
you're here now.
I'm here now. Sometimes when I'll start again. Sometimes when you're in a dark place, you think you've been buried, but actually you've been planted.
There we have it, lads. Take from that what you will. A quote of inspiration from the one and only Basmo.
Yeah. I didn't write that myself now. I just heard it and I was like, that's a pretty good one.
Just take the credit for it.
I wrote that, man. Jesus. Edit that part out.
No, you're an absolute gent. Fair play to you. You're smashing recently. You're doing great things. Training 7 days a week, like an absolute pro athlete at the ripe old age of 27. So fair play to you.
I'm only 19.
And thanks everyone for watching and listening wherever you're at. Make sure to subscribe if you are listening. It really does help us. It'll only take one click of a button and it means the world to us. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment to let us know if you hated it.
Tell a friend.
Yeah,
tell a friend. That's important.
Tell a friend. But guys, thanks a million. Lots of love, and as always, stay in it, guys, baby.
Energized Show, up the Irish. Been sussing you guys a couple of times. I've seen a couple of clips. I think you've done some interviews with Dylan Moran and that I saw. So keep going, keep up the good work, guys.